Okay, I know times are tough right now for job seekers, but let me put it in perspective. I'm going to give you my grand unified theory of suffering, aka GUTS. We'll start with the pain. We all know that job seeking is a perpetual nightmare. It is recruiting hell. But where did that come from? Well, it all started about 5 years ago when COVID takes hold and all of a sudden we're working from home. And what does that mean? If you are an employer, you no longer have to look for employees around the corner. You can look for them around the world, which means you're going out, you're hiring more than ever, and all that hiring gives employees a lot more power, which leads to the Great Resignation. Because if you can walk away and get a better salary anywhere in the world, that's pretty popular. Unfortunately, just when times are getting really good for employees, the other big disruption hits, which is the supply chain tanks. We can no longer get toilet paper, everything is more expensive, and to rein in this rising inflation, the Federal Reserve says, okay, we gotta raise interest rates for the first time in a long time. Now, as soon as those interest rates go up, everything becomes more expensive, specifically hiring. And so Elon Musk, who's just purchased Twitter for a ton of money, says, what if I cut, say, 80% of all the employees? Well, everyone thinks that Twitter is going to tank as soon as this happens, but miraculously it doesn't. And of course, this emboldens other tech leaders to say, hey, what if we laid off not just a couple thousand employees, but tens of thousands of employees, especially if we get rewarded by the stock market for doing it. And sure enough, before you know it, every company is joining in. And they're not just laying off anyone, they're laying off recruiters in particular, because of course, if you're not hiring, you don't need people to do the hiring. And so ultimately, just when things seem really tough, fewer recruiters, fewer job openings, along comes ChatGPT. And that adds another little wrinkle to our story. Because all of a sudden, on the job seeker side, it is so easy to apply for a job, because with one click, you have a new resume, a new cover letter. And as if that wasn't crazy enough, then Donald Trump gets elected, and all of a sudden, every business has the sword of Damocles hanging over them, which is maybe tomorrow there'll be a tariff. How can we predict the future? We're paralyzed. We're not hiring. And that leads to going from the Great Resignation to what I call the Great Rejection, this moment of just real unhappiness. But things continue to deteriorate even after that. Next thing that happens is there's this AI arms race where recruiters are saying, hey, if you are applying with these automated application tools, with interview cheating tools, we're going to step up our game too. We're going to have AI recruiters and virtual avatars and all this stuff. So now the war is really ramping up. And who really feels the pain most acutely? Of course, it is Gen Z, the youngest workers. Because not only are they competing against other folks in their generation, but they're even competing against people who are more senior, who are now unemployed, who are looking for those same jobs. Even seasonal work, summer jobs, are harder to find. Plus, the first jobs that AI can really threaten are the ones that are easier to do, of course. And so there's this other big threat on the horizon. Unsurprisingly, after all of this time, the recent grad advantage, where if you were a new grad traditionally, you had a lower unemployment rate than the average worker because you were cheaper to hire and easier to hire, has now become a disadvantage. All of a sudden, you have a higher unemployment rate than anyone else in the economy because you have all these headwinds. And then, the very people who should be poised to support Gen Z, to support students, are under attack themselves. Those are the universities. They're under attack politically, their funding is being cut at the NIH and NSF levels, and if you are trying to support students, get them access to real opportunities through the career ecosystem of alumni and employers, because you know that when you get a referral from someone on the inside, say an alum, you have a way better chance of getting hired than just applying online. All of that is being challenged as well. And so, my argument is that we have to get to a point of authenticity. As I told the New York Times directly, we need to recognize that relationships still matter and matter more than ever, because if we don't, we're going to waste a lot of time and a lot of processing power going down the wrong rabbit hole. And so I encourage everyone out there who's watching this, don't just say, hey, this is a really tough moment, but instead have guts. The guts to step away from the misery of this perpetual nightmare and do things the right way. That's the way to break through. Good luck out there, everyone.